Hark you a villa awakening, a sensory journey. The first thing you notice is the light, that particular golden softness that only comes in the moments between night and day, when the world hasn't quite decided what it wants to become. Here, in this villa garden tucked away from the bustling streets of ancient Rome, the morning arrives like a gentle whisper rather than a demand. You find yourself standing on smooth marble steps, still cool beneath your feet, looking out over terraced gardens that seem to breathe with the rhythm of dawn itself. The air carries the mingled scents of jasmine and rosemary, of dew-dampened earth and the faint sweetness of ripening figs. Somewhere in the distance, a fountain murmurs its endless conversation with the stones that cradle it. This is a place where time moves differently, where the relentless expectations of Roman society feel as distant as the 7 hills beyond these garden walls. Here, in this sanctuary of green and growing things, you can finally set down the weight you've been carrying, the weight of being everything to everyone, the weight of performing, always performing, even when your soul craves nothing more than this. This simple act of breathing in beauty and breathing out the accumulated tensions of days that blur together like watercolors in rain. The villa itself rises behind you, its cream-colored walls warming as the sun climbs higher. Windows framed in deep blue catch the light like jewels, and you can almost hear the gentle sounds of a household awakening. The soft footsteps of servants beginning their daily rituals, the distant clatter of pottery in the kitchen quarters, the low murmur of voices greeting the new day. But for now, this garden claims you, draws you deeper into its embrace. A peacock calls from somewhere among the olive trees, its voice both regal and wild, reminding you that even in this cultivated paradise, something untamed persists, something that refuses to be diminished or domesticated, no matter how many rules society tries to impose upon it. Perhaps that's what draws you here. The recognition of that same untamed essence within yourself, the part of you that remembers what it feels like to simply be, rather than to do or achieve or prove. You move slowly down the marble steps, each one bringing you deeper into the garden's spell. On either side, perfectly pruned boxwood hedges create intimate spaces where stone benches wait beneath flowering almond trees. The petals drift down like snow, carpeting the gravel paths with pale pink softness that crunches gently beneath your feet. To your left, a pergola draped in grapevines creates a tunnel of green shade. The young grapes hang in tight clusters, still weeks away from harvest, but already promising the wine that will grace winter tables when these warm days are nothing more than memory. The vine leaves filter the sunlight into patterns that dance across your skin as you pass beneath them, each step a meditation on the simple pleasure of moving through beauty. The fountain grows louder as you approach, not demanding attention, but offering it like a gift. When you round the corner of a particularly lush herb garden where mint and thyme release their fragrances with each brush of morning breeze, you see it. A circular basin carved from rose-colored marble, where water spills from the cupped hands of a statue whose face has been worn smooth by centuries of weather and time. But it's not the statue that captures your attention. It's the woman sitting on the fountain's edge, her back straight but not rigid, her dark hair caught up in a simple style that speaks of someone who has more important things to think about than elaborate arrangements. She wears a tunic the color of early morning sky, and her hands rest quietly in her lap as she gazes out over the garden with an expression of such peaceful contentment that you feel your own breathing slow just watching her. This is Livia, though you don't know her name yet. What you sense, even from this distance, is something that calls to the deepest part of your weary soul. Here is someone who has learned the art of being present, who has discovered how to create boundaries that protect rather than isolate, who understands that true strength sometimes looks like the simple act of sitting still and watching the world wake up around you. She doesn't notice you yet, lost as she is in her own morning meditation. A small smile plays at the corners of her mouth as she watches a pair of sparrows splash in the fountain's overflow, their tiny bodies creating ripples that catch the light like scattered coins. There's something in her stillness that speaks of hard-won wisdom, the kind that comes not from books or teachers, but from learning to listen to the voice within that so often gets drowned out by the voices of others. You find yourself moving more quietly now, not wanting to disturb this moment of perfect peace, but as you settle onto a nearby bench carved from the same rose marble as the fountain, she turns, and her eyes meet yours with a warmth that suggests she's been expecting you all along. "Good morning," she says, her voice carrying the particular quality of someone who chooses her words carefully, who understands that speech, like silence, can be either a gift or a burden. "I was just thinking about how the garden teaches us something new each day, if we're quiet enough to listen." There's an invitation in her words, though she doesn't press it. Instead, she turns back to watch the sparrows, giving you space to decide how much of yourself you're ready to share. It's such a small thing, this gesture of patience, but it feels revolutionary after days and weeks and months of people who want immediate answers, instant responses, constant availability. The sun climbs higher, warming the air and releasing more of the garden's fragrances. Lavender begins to assert itself, mixing with the roses that climb the villa's walls in great cascades of cream and deep pink. Bees move among the flowers with purposeful contentment, their humming adding another layer to the garden's morning symphony. "Some days," Livia continues, her gaze still on the sparrows, "I come here before the household wakes, before the day begins making its demands, not because I'm avoiding my responsibilities, but because I've learned that if I don't fill myself up first, if I don't remember who I am beneath all the roles I play, then I have nothing real to offer anyone." Her words settle into the space between you like seeds, finding fertile ground. How long has it been since someone spoke to you about filling yourself up first? How long since anyone suggested that your own peace might be not just acceptable, but necessary? The sparrows finish their bath and flutter away to dry their feathers in the warming sun. The fountain continues its gentle song, and somewhere in the villa you hear the soft notes of a flute, someone practicing scales, the music floating out through an open window to blend with the garden's natural harmonies. "The Romans have many virtues," Livia says, finally turning to face you fully. "But sometimes I think we've forgotten that rest is not laziness, that boundaries are not selfishness, that saying no to one thing means saying yes to something else, something that might be infinitely more valuable." She pauses, studying your face with the kind of attention that makes you feel truly seen, not judged or evaluated, but simply witnessed in all your complexity. "You look like someone who's been saying yes to everything except herself," she observes gently. "Am I wrong?" The question hangs in the air like morning mist, soft but impossible to ignore. And suddenly you realize that this garden, this moment, this unexpected encounter with a woman who seems to have found something you've been searching for without even knowing it, this might be exactly what you didn't know you needed. "Come," Livia says, rising gracefully from the fountain's edge. "Let me show you how a Roman villa can become a sanctuary, and how even in the midst of a demanding world, we can learn to tend the gardens of our own souls." The Apothecarius, crafting boundaries with scent. You follow Livia along a stone pathway that winds deeper into the villa, past climbing roses heavy with morning dew and herb gardens that release their fragrances with each gentle breeze. The air grows richer as you walk, layered with scents that seem to tell stories of their own. Lavender whispering of calm afternoons, rosemary speaking of clarity and focus, something warm and resinous that makes you think of protection, of sacred spaces. Every Roman household of substance has its apothecarius, Livia explains, her voice carrying the same unhurried quality as your footsteps on the worn stones. Not just for healing, though that too, but for the art of creating atmospheres, of crafting the very air we breathe into something that serves our highest good. You round a corner and find yourself before a doorway framed by flowering vines, beyond which lies a workshop that seems to exist outside of time itself. Shelves line every wall, filled with vessels of amber glass, terracotta amphorae, and small wooden boxes that hint at treasures within. Bundles of dried herbs hang from the rafters like nature's own chandelier, and in the center of it all, a woman works with the focused attention of an artist, or perhaps a philosopher. She is neither young nor old, this apothecarius, but possessed of that timeless quality that comes to those who have found their true calling. Her hands move with practiced grace among small bowls and measuring implements, and when she looks up at your approach, her eyes hold the warm intelligence of someone who understands that her craft is about far more than pleasant aromas. "Ah, Claudia," Livia says, and you hear genuine affection in her greeting. "I've brought someone who might appreciate witnessing the morning's work." Claudia inclines her head with a smile that somehow manages to be both welcoming and completely unhurried. "The boundary blend," she says, as if this explains everything. "Perfect timing. I was just beginning the most delicate part." You find yourself drawn closer to the work table, where an array of small bowls holds what looks like the essence of the natural world distilled into its most potent forms. Some contain oils that catch the light like liquid amber. Others hold dried petals and leaves in shades you didn't know existed. Deep purples, silver greens, golds that seem to shimmer with their own inner light. "Boundaries," Claudia says, beginning to work again with movements that are both precise and flowing, "are not walls. They are, how do you say, more like the skin of a fruit. Protective, yes, but also permeable. They allow what nourishes to enter while keeping what harms at a distance." She lifts a small vial of oil, holding it to the morning light streaming through the workshop's windows. "Frankincense," she murmurs, adding 3 careful drops to a larger vessel. "For sacred space, for remembering that your own peace is holy ground." The scent that rises is complex, grounding, something that speaks to parts of you that exist far beneath the surface of daily concerns. You watch as she reaches for another ingredient, this one a powder so fine it seems to float rather than pour. "Orris root," she explains, "dried and ground iris. It takes 3 years to develop its full potency, 3 years of patient waiting for something beautiful to become its truest self. Rather like learning to honor our own needs, don't you think?" There's something mesmerizing about watching her work. Each ingredient is chosen with intention, added with reverence. No rushing, no second guessing. Just the steady confidence of someone who trusts both her knowledge and her intuition. "You see," Livia says softly, settling onto a wooden stool nearby, "Claudia understands something that took me years to learn. That saying no to what depletes us is actually a way of saying yes to what truly matters." Claudia nods, now adding what looks like tiny crystalline fragments. "Cedar," she says, "for strength that doesn't need to announce itself, for the kind of quiet power that simply is." You find yourself thinking of all the times you've said yes when you meant no, all the energy you've given away without even realizing it was finite. Watching this careful, intentional blending process, you begin to see how different life might feel if you approached your own boundaries with the same thoughtful attention. "The most important ingredient," Claudia continues, reaching for a small bottle filled with what appears to be liquid moonlight, is often the most subtle. She adds just a single drop to her mixture. White tea essence, for the wisdom to know that we don't have to carry everyone else's emotions as if they were our own. The workshop fills with a fragrance that is somehow both complex and utterly simple, like breathing in the essence of a perfect morning or the feeling of finally coming home after a long journey. It doesn't demand attention so much as invite it, the way truly effective boundaries work in life. I used to believe, Livia says, her voice taking on the quality of gentle confession, that being a good person meant being available to everyone all the time, that my worth was measured by how much I could give, how many needs I could meet, how seamlessly I could anticipate what others required of me. Claudia begins to blend the mixture with a small wooden instrument, her movements creating patterns that seem almost ceremonial. And what changed? She asks, though something in her tone suggests she already knows. Exhaustion, Livia admits with a laugh that holds no bitterness. Complete and utter depletion. I realized I had become so focused on being everything to everyone that I had forgotten to be anything to myself. You feel something shift in your chest at these words, a recognition that goes deeper than thought. How many times have you felt that same emptiness, that sense of having given away so much of yourself that you're not sure what's left? The beautiful thing about boundaries, Claudia says, now transferring her completed blend to a small vessel of deep blue glass, is that they actually allow us to give more genuinely. When we protect our own energy, what we offer comes from abundance rather than obligation. She holds up the finished product, and even from where you stand, you can sense its power, not overwhelming or demanding, but quietly, confidently present, like the scent equivalent of someone who knows their own worth. This will burn slowly, she explains, lighting a small charcoal disc and sprinkling a pinch of her creation onto its glowing surface. The fragrance will last for hours, a gentle reminder that it's not only acceptable, but necessary to tend your own garden first. The smoke that rises carries with it something you can only describe as permission. Permission to rest, to choose, to say no without explanation or apology. Permission to remember that your peace matters too. As the aromatic smoke weaves through the workshop air, you feel something in your shoulders release. Tension you didn't even realize you'd been carrying. And you understand that this is what true sanctuary feels like, not the absence of responsibility, but the presence of choice. The Linarius, weaving integrity into commerce. The scent of herbs and possibility still lingering in your awareness, you find yourself drawn toward the gentle sounds of commerce. Voices calling, coins chiming softly, the rustle of fine fabrics catching the morning breeze. The villa's marketplace spreads before you like a tapestry of human connection, each stall a small world of its own. Here, beneath striped awnings that dance with Mediterranean light, the real work of community unfolds. Not the grand gestures that history remembers, but the quiet daily choices that build trust. One transaction, one conversation, one moment of integrity at a time. Your attention settles on a particular stall where bolts of wool catch the sunlight like captured clouds, deep blues the color of twilight, warm browns like fertile earth, creams soft as morning mist. The woman arranging them moves with the confidence of someone who knows her craft intimately. This is Aurelia, the Linarius, the wool merchant whose reputation extends far beyond these market stones. But watching her now, you understand that her true skill isn't just in selecting the finest fleeces or negotiating the best prices. It's in something rarer, the art of doing business with her whole heart intact. "Feel this," she says to a customer, offering a length of midnight blue wool. This came from sheep that graze the hills above Tiber, the shepherds there. They've been in the same families for generations. They know each animal by name. Her hands move over the fabric with reverence, and you notice how she doesn't rush the interaction, doesn't push or persuade. She simply shares what she knows to be true, then steps back and allows the quality to speak for itself. In my grandmother's time, Aurelia continues, her voice carrying the warmth of shared wisdom, she taught me that every thread tells a story. The rain that fell on the pastures, the care of the shepherds, the skill of the weavers. When you wrap yourself in good wool, you're wrapping yourself in all of that intention. The customer nods, running the fabric between her fingers. You can see the moment when she feels it too, that sense of substance, of something made with care rather than haste. This isn't just commerce, it's connection. Another customer approaches, clearly in a hurry. "I need wool for a tunic," he says brusquely. "Something adequate. What's your cheapest option?" You watch Aurelia's response with interest. She doesn't bristle at his tone or try to upsell him to something beyond his means. Instead, she considers his need with the same thoughtfulness she'd show her wealthiest patron. "Adequate," she repeats gently, moving toward a different section of her stall. "I understand. Sometimes we need something serviceable, something that will do its job without fanfare." She lifts a bolt of sturdy brown wool, well made but simply finished. "This will wear well and keep you warm. The weave is honest. No pretense, but no shortcuts either." The man examines it, surprised perhaps by its quality despite the modest price. "This will do nicely," he says, and his voice has softened. "Thank you for understanding what I needed." As he walks away with his purchase carefully wrapped, you realize what you've just witnessed. Aurelia didn't compromise her standards to meet his budget. She simply found the intersection of his needs and her integrity. She honored both his limitations and her own principles. "Every transaction is a choice," she murmurs, almost to herself, as she reorganizes her display. "We can choose to see people as opportunities to exploit, or as fellow travelers deserving of honesty. I sleep better choosing the latter." A young woman appears at the stall's edge, hesitating. Her clothes suggest modest means, but her eyes linger on a particularly beautiful piece. Wool dyed the deep red of pomegranate seeds, shot through with threads of gold. "It's lovely," the girl says wistfully. "For a wedding dress, perhaps. Someday." Aurelia follows her gaze and smiles. "My daughter's age, I'd guess. Are you planning to marry soon?" "Next spring," the girl admits. "Though I'm not sure we can afford—" She trails off, embarrassed. Aurelia lifts the red wool, holding it up to catch the light. "You know, this piece has been with me for almost a year. Beautiful, yes, but it's been waiting for the right person. Sometimes I think fabrics choose their owners as much as owners choose their fabrics." She names a price that makes the girl's eyes widen, not with dismay, but with hope. "I could arrange for you to pay over time," Aurelia continues matter-of-factly, "a little each month until your wedding. That would give you time to plan and give this wool time to anticipate its purpose." The girl's face transforms. "You would do that, but you don't even know me." "I know enough," Aurelia replies. "I know you see beauty when you look at fine things. I know you're honest about your circumstances. And I know that every bride deserves to feel magnificent on her wedding day. Consider it an investment in love, in celebration, in the continuation of all good things." As the afternoon light shifts and lengthens, you continue to observe Aurelia's quiet mastery. She turns away customers seeking goods she knows are inferior, even when it costs her sales. She shares her knowledge freely, teaching a young merchant about the differences between various weaves. She adjusts her prices fairly, neither undervaluing her goods nor taking advantage of someone's desperation or ignorance. "My father used to say," she tells a colleague during a brief lull, "that reputation is the only currency that appreciates over time. Everything else, coins, goods, even relationships built on false foundations, they can disappear overnight. But integrity? That compounds like interest in a well-tended account." You feel something stirring in your own chest as you watch her work, a recognition, perhaps, a remembering of what it feels like to move through the world with your values intact, to make choices based on what feels right rather than what feels expedient. In Aurelia's steady presence, you're reminded that integrity isn't about grand gestures or perfect moments. It's about the accumulation of small, honest choices. The decision to tell the truth even when a lie might be easier. The choice to treat others fairly even when no one is watching. The commitment to quality even when shortcuts beckon. Every day, Aurelia says to her apprentice as they begin to close the stall, we get to choose who we want to be, not just once, but in every interaction, every decision, every moment when we think no one will notice, but someone always notices, even if it's just us. As the marketplace begins to quiet and the last customers drift away, you feel a deep settling in your bones, like finding solid ground after walking on shifting sand. This is what it means to build a life on bedrock. To know that your choices align with your deepest values, that your daily actions reflect your truest self. The integrity you've witnessed here isn't about perfection. It's about consistency, about showing up as the same person in public and private, in easy moments and difficult ones, about building something lasting in a world that often rewards the temporary. The atriensis, guarding the threshold of self. And this is what you carry with you as the afternoon light begins to soften. This understanding that integrity isn't a destination, but a way of traveling, a way of moving through the world with your values as your compass. You find yourself walking slowly back through the marketplace, past the vendors closing their stalls, past the conversations winding down. The cobblestones feel warm beneath your feet, holding the day's heat like a gentle reminder of all you've witnessed. The air carries the mingled scents of spices and olive oil, of fresh bread, and the distant promise of evening. Your path leads you toward a different part of the city now, toward the residential quarter where the domus houses stand like quiet guardians of family life. Here, the streets are wider, more peaceful. The sounds of commerce fade behind you, replaced by the softer rhythms of domestic life, children playing in courtyards, the gentle splash of fountains, the murmur of evening conversations beginning to unfold. You approach one particular house, a graceful structure with walls of warm ochre stone and terracotta roof tiles that glow in the slanted light. But what draws your attention isn't the house itself. It's the figure standing at its entrance. She is the atriensis, the doorkeeper, and she stands with a presence that speaks of both welcome and protection. Her posture is upright but not rigid, alert but not anxious. There's something about the way she holds herself that suggests she knows exactly who belongs here and who does not. Her name is Valeria, and she has been the guardian of this threshold for many years, not just the physical doorway, but the boundary between the outside world and the sacred space of home, between the demands of society and the peace of the inner sanctuary. You watch as various people approach throughout the evening. Each interaction tells a story. Each response reveals the art of boundary keeping. A merchant arrives, insistent and loud, demanding immediate audience with the master of the house. Valeria listens, her face calm, her hands folded. When he finishes his urgent proclamation, she speaks quietly but clearly. "The family is at dinner," she says. "You may return tomorrow morning after the 3rd hour." The merchant protests, tries to push past her with his self-importance, his manufactured urgency, but Valeria doesn't move, doesn't argue, doesn't justify or explain further. She simply stands, a living embodiment of the boundary she protects. Her silence is more powerful than any argument, her stillness more convincing than any force. Eventually, he leaves, muttering about inconvenience and lost opportunities. But Valeria remains unchanged, neither apologetic nor defensive. She has done what she was meant to do, protected what was meant to be protected. A friend of the family approaches next, someone clearly welcome but arriving at an inconvenient time. The children are being put to bed. The mistress of the house is tending to a sick servant. It's not the right moment for visiting. Watch how Valeria handles this, how she can be both kind and firm. Julia would be delighted to see you, she says warmly, but this evening finds the household in need of quiet. Might you return tomorrow? I know she would want to give you her full attention. The friend understands immediately, grateful actually for the honesty, for not being admitted into chaos or distraction, for being valued enough to be offered a better time, a more present welcome. This is the art Valeria has mastered, the understanding that true hospitality sometimes means saying not now instead of yes, that protecting someone's peace is an act of love, even when it requires temporary disappointment. You settle onto a bench across the street, content to observe this quiet mastery of boundaries in action. The evening deepens around you, torches being lit in windows, the first stars appearing in the darkening sky. A woman arrives, clearly distressed, carrying what looks like the weight of the world on her shoulders. She's a neighbor, someone whose husband drinks too much and whose children run wild. She comes here often, seeking to pour her troubles into other people's peace. Valeria greets her with genuine kindness, but also with clarity. I can see you're struggling, Marcella, she says gently, but the family has already given what they can this week. The mistress sent food to your household just yesterday, and clothes for your youngest. Marcella begins to protest, to explain why this time is different, why her need is more urgent than before. But Valeria listens without being drawn in, compassionate without being consumed. Your troubles are real, Valeria acknowledges, but making them someone else's responsibility won't solve them. The Temple of Minerva offers counsel, and there are others in the neighborhood who might help. But tonight, this household rests. You realize you're witnessing something profound, the difference between kindness and enabling, between compassion and codependence. Valeria cares about Marcella, but she doesn't carry Marcella's life for her. There's wisdom in this, ancient wisdom about where one person ends and another begins, about the truth that you can't pour from an empty cup, can't give what you don't have, can't save someone by drowning with them. Valeria understands that protecting the peace of this household isn't selfish, it's necessary, that maintaining the sanctuary allows it to remain a place of true refuge, genuine restoration, authentic welcome when the time is right. As the evening deepens, you watch her perform the closing rituals, checking the gates, ensuring the oil lamps are properly trimmed, setting the boundaries that will hold through the night. But she's not just securing a physical space. She's honoring the sacred nature of rest, of privacy, of the right to exist without constant demand or intrusion. You think about your own life, your own thresholds, the boundaries you've let become blurred or broken, the way you've sometimes said yes when you meant no, opened doors when you needed them closed, allowed others to treat your peace as if it belonged to them. Valeria approaches you as she makes her final rounds, her smile warm in the torchlight. You've been watching, she observes, not accusingly but with gentle curiosity. I have, you admit, learning. She nods, understanding immediately. It's not easy. This work of boundary keeping. People will tell you it's selfish, unkind, unwelcoming. They'll try to make you responsible for their disappointment, their inconvenience, their unmet needs. She pauses, looking up at the stars now bright overhead. But boundaries aren't walls. They're gates. They don't keep out love. They make space for it to flourish. They don't prevent connection. They ensure that connection happens with intention, with presence, with genuine care. The door that's always open, she continues, loses its meaning. The welcome that's always available becomes empty, but the threshold that's guarded with wisdom, the invitation that's offered with intention, these things hold their value. You feel something settling in your chest, a kind of permission you didn't know you needed, permission to protect your own peace, to guard your own energy, to say no without guilt or endless explanation. How do you know? You ask. How do you decide what to allow and what to turn away? Valeria's smile deepens. You listen, she says simply, not just to what others want, but to what your household needs, what your family requires, what your own soul is asking for. You remember that saying yes to everything means saying no to what matters most. The truth of this resonates deeply, settling into your bones like an ancient song remembered. You understand now that boundaries aren't about being harsh or unkind. They're about being wise, about recognizing that your energy, your peace, your presence are precious resources that deserve to be tended with care. As Valeria completes her evening duties and withdraws into the house, you remain for a moment longer, absorbing the lesson of the threshold, understanding that you, too, are the guardian of your own sacred space, the keeper of your own peace, the protector of your own ability to show up fully for what truly matters. The night air is cool and clean, carrying the promise of rest, of restoration, of boundaries honored and peace preserved. Seneca's wisdom, finding peace in simplicity. The night air is cool and clean, carrying the promise of rest, of restoration, of boundaries honored and peace preserved. And as you breathe in this tranquil evening, your steps naturally lead you deeper into the villa, toward a warm glow emanating from a quiet study. Here, in this intimate chamber lined with scrolls and tablets, sits an elderly man with kind eyes and weathered hands. This is Seneca, philosopher and teacher, his presence radiating the deep calm that comes from years of contemplation. Before him burns a simple oil lamp, its steady flame casting dancing shadows on the walls, illuminating the wisdom gathered in this sacred space. "Welcome, friend," he says softly, his voice carrying the warmth of someone who has learned to find peace in the midst of life's storms. "I was just reflecting on the day, on the beautiful simplicity of this moment." His fingers trace the edge of a worn scroll, and you notice how present he is, how fully here in this quiet hour. "You know," Seneca continues, his gaze resting gently on the lamp's flame, "I have spent much of my life learning a profound truth. That peace, real peace, comes not from having everything we want, but from wanting what we already have." The words settle into the room like a gentle benediction, offering permission to release the endless striving, the constant reaching for more. You settle into a comfortable chair nearby, feeling the soft wool cushions embrace you as Seneca's wisdom begins to work its quiet magic. Today brought challenges, as days do, he reflects, a difficult conversation, unexpected news, the weight of responsibilities. His voice remains steady, untroubled, as if these challenges are simply weather passing through. "But I have learned to ask myself, what in this situation can I actually control?" He gestures toward the lamp, where the flame burns steadily despite the gentle evening breeze. "I cannot control what others say or do. I cannot control the winds of change, but I can control how I respond, how I choose to meet each moment." The oil lamp flickers slightly, then returns to its steady glow, and you begin to understand this simple metaphor, your own inner light, your peace, your sense of self. These can remain constant even when external circumstances shift and change. "This lamp," Seneca observes, "burns with the same quiet dignity, whether the room is full of guests or empty. whether the night is calm or stormy. I used to exhaust myself trying to control outcomes, trying to manage other people's reactions, trying to ensure that everything went according to my plans. His laugh is gentle, self-compassionate. What a waste of precious energy that was, like trying to direct the wind or command the stars. Instead, he explains, true wisdom lies in tending your own flame, in nurturing your own capacity for peace and presence. When someone speaks harshly, I can choose my response. When disappointment arrives, I can choose how to meet it. When the day brings unexpected turns, I can choose to remain centered in what I know to be true. You feel something loosening in your chest, some tight knot of responsibility you didn't even realize you were carrying, the expectation that you should be able to control, to fix, to manage all the moving pieces of your life. Seneca's wisdom offers a different way, a path of gentle surrender to what is, while taking full responsibility for your own inner landscape. Contentment, he continues, is not about having a perfect life. It is about finding richness in simplicity, depth in ordinary moments, peace in accepting what each day actually brings rather than mourning what it doesn't. The lamp's flame dances as he speaks, steady yet alive, grounded yet reaching upward. Tonight, for instance, I am content with this simple room, this quiet conversation, this moment of reflection before sleep. His contentment is palpable, not the forced gratitude of someone trying to convince themselves, but the genuine satisfaction of someone who has learned to see clearly. You begin to inventory your own simple pleasures, the softness of clean sheets waiting for you, the rhythm of your own breathing, the gift of this peaceful moment, not because your life is perfect, but because this moment, right now, contains everything you actually need. The Stoics teach that we suffer not from events themselves, but from our judgments about events, Seneca shares. A rainy day is simply weather until we decide it has ruined our plans. A difficult person is simply someone struggling until we take their behavior personally. This reframe settles over you like a warm blanket, offering freedom from the exhausting work of taking everything so seriously, so personally. You can care deeply while holding lightly. You can engage fully while remaining centered in your own peace. As the oil burns lower in the lamp, Seneca's voice grows even softer, more intimate. Rest well tonight, knowing that you need not carry the weight of the world. Your job is simply to tend your own flame, to nurture your own wisdom, to show up as fully as you can for your own precious life. The lamp's glow seems to pulse gently, like a heartbeat, like the rhythm of breath, reminding you that peace is always available, always burning quietly within, waiting for you to remember, to return, to rest. The Roman bath, cleansing body and mind, you follow the gentle pull of that inner flame, letting it guide you from Seneca's quiet study, through the villa's marble corridors, toward the sound of softly lapping water. The evening air carries the faint scent of lavender and rose, mingling with something warmer, more mineral, like stones heated by the sun. Your feet find smooth marble steps leading down into the villa's private bathhouse. Here, the world grows even quieter, more sacred. Steam rises from pools of perfectly warmed water, creating veils of mist that dance in the lamplight. The walls are adorned with simple mosaics, blues and greens that remind you of peaceful seas, of summer skies, of all the places where your soul feels most at home. A woman moves gracefully through this sacred space. Her name is Aquilia, and she tends these waters with the reverence of a priestess. Her movements are unhurried, deliberate, as she tests the temperature of each pool, adds drops of precious oils, arranges soft linens with careful attention. She understands something that the rushing world has forgotten, that cleansing is ceremony, that washing is worship, that caring for the body is caring for the soul. "Welcome," she says softly, her voice echoing gently off the marble walls. "You have carried much today, traveled far, held space for others, tended to countless needs. Now, it is time to tend to yourself." She gestures toward the first pool, smaller, filled with the coolest water. "We begin here," she explains, "with the acknowledgement of all you have carried. Feel the weight of the day, the heaviness in your shoulders, the tension you have gathered like stones in your pockets. Feel it all, and know that you need not carry it into tomorrow." You step into the cool water, feeling it embrace your skin, washing away the residue of difficult conversations, of others' expectations, of the small compromises that accumulate like dust throughout the day. The water is honest, accepting, asking nothing of you but presence. "Breathe," Aquilia whispers, her voice like water over stones. "Let the water hold you, as you have held so many others. Let it support you, as you have supported, as you have given, as you have poured yourself out in service to the world." The cool water draws out the heat of frustration, the fever of comparison, the inflammation of trying too hard. You feel your body releasing, your muscles softening, your breath deepening into something more natural, more true. When you are ready, Aquilia guides you to the second pool, warmer now, infused with oils of chamomile and sweet orange. "Here," she says, "we cleanse not just the body, but the heart. Here we wash away the emotions that are not yours to carry, the guilt that serves no one, the shame that has outlived its purpose." The warm water embraces you like forgiveness, like the arms of someone who loves you exactly as you are. You feel layers dissolving, old stories washing away, patterns that once served you but now only burden, beliefs about who you should be, how you should perform, what you should accomplish to be worthy of love. You are already worthy, Aquilia reminds you, as if she can read the release happening in your cells. You were born worthy. You will die worthy. And every moment in between, even the messy ones, even the tired ones, even the ones where you feel like you're failing, all of it is sacred. All of it is enough. The third pool waits, deeper, warmer still. Steam rising like prayers into the evening air. This water holds the heat of transformation, of renewal, of the phoenix that rises not from ashes, but from the simple decision to begin again. And here, Aquilia's voice grows softer still, more reverent. We remember who we are beneath all the roles, all the responsibilities, all the ways we have learned to shape ourselves for others' comfort. Here we meet the woman who existed before the world told her who to be. You sink deeper into this sacred water, feeling it hold you completely, support you utterly. The warmth penetrates not just your skin, but your bones, your blood, your very essence. You remember what it feels like to be held without having to hold, to be cared for without having to care, to simply exist without having to earn your place. Steam swirls around you like ancient blessings, like the breath of all the women who have ever needed this moment, this permission, this holy pause. You are not alone in your tiredness, not alone in your longing for rest, not alone in your deep need to set down the weight and simply be. The water remembers, Aquilia whispers, remembers the first ocean, the first rain, the first tears of joy. It remembers that you are made of the same substance as rivers, as clouds, as the morning dew that refreshes the earth. You are not separate from this beauty, this flow, this endless cycle of renewal. The warmth seeps deeper, reaching places that have been cold for too long, touching the parts of you that have forgotten how to receive, how to rest, how to trust that you can stop performing and still be loved. Sunset reflections, a quiet conclusion. The golden hour arrives like a gentle benediction, painting the villa walls in shades of amber and rose, as if the very stones themselves are glowing with accumulated wisdom. From your place in the sacred pools, you can see through the arched windows how the light transforms everything it touches. The olive groves becoming silver-green tapestries, the distant hills melting into watercolor dreams, the marble columns standing like ancient sentinels blessed by time itself. The water around you holds this light, holds this warmth, holds you in its eternal embrace as the day slowly releases its hold on the world. You think of Livia in her garden, how she moved among her plants with such reverence, such understanding that tending requires patience, that growth happens in its own time, that forcing and rushing only disturb the natural order of things. Her hands, weathered by years of gentle cultivation, knew exactly when to water and when to wait, when to prune and when to let flourish, when to shelter and when to allow the storms to strengthen what was meant to endure. You carry this knowing now, this permission to tend your own inner landscape with the same compassion, the same trust in natural rhythms, the same faith that what is meant to bloom will bloom when the season is right. The scent of Claudia's boundary blend still lingers in your memory. Frankincense and myrrh, lavender and sage, each drop carefully measured, each ingredient chosen with intention and love. She showed you that protection doesn't have to be harsh, that boundaries can be beautiful, that saying no to what depletes you is really saying yes to what nourishes your soul. Her workshop, filled with precious oils and ancient wisdom, became a sanctuary where you learned that self-care isn't selfish, that tending your own needs first allows you to show up more fully for others, that the most generous thing you can do is to stop giving from an empty vessel and instead overflow from abundance. In the marketplace, Aurelia's voice echoes still, steady and sure, as she conducted her business with such integrity, such respect for both herself and others. You watched her navigate difficult conversations with grace, saw how she honored fair exchange, witnessed the way authentic power moves through the world, not dominating or demanding, but simply being, simply standing in truth, simply refusing to compromise what matters most. Her scales, balanced and true, reflected something deeper than commerce, something about the delicate art of giving and receiving, of honoring both your own worth and the worth of others, of creating transactions that nourish rather than deplete, of building a life where every exchange adds to the beauty of the world rather than diminishing it. Valeria's doorway, that threshold between the demands of the world and the sanctuary of home, reminds you that you too can choose what enters your space, your heart, your precious energy, her gentle firmness, her kind but clear boundaries, her understanding that true hospitality sometimes means saying not now, not today, not in this way, showed you that protection and love can coexist, that caring for others begins with caring for yourself. The way she greeted each visitor, with respect but without compromise, with kindness but without martyrdom, demonstrated that you can be both soft and strong, both open and discerning, both generous and wise about where you invest your irreplaceable life force. Seneca's study, filled with scrolls and starlight, offered you the deepest gift of all, the recognition that peace comes not from controlling the world around you, but from releasing the illusion that you ever could. His words, weathered by years of practice, reminded you that freedom lives in focusing on what is truly yours, your thoughts, your choices, your responses, your inner flame that no external storm can extinguish. The simplicity of his wisdom, the elegance of letting go, the profound relief of realizing that you are not responsible for managing other people's emotions, other people's choices, other people's journeys. This understanding settles into your bones now like medicine, like coming home to yourself after a long exile, and here, in these sacred waters. Aquilia's gentle presence continues to hold space for your complete release, for your total permission to rest, to receive, to remember that you are worthy of care simply because you exist, not because of what you produce or perform or provide for others. The three pools, each one a deeper invitation into trust, into surrender, into the radical act of believing that you deserve tenderness, especially from yourself, have washed away layers of old conditioning, old beliefs about what makes you valuable, old habits of earning love through exhaustion. As the sun touches the horizon, painting the sky in shades of coral and gold, you feel yourself becoming part of this ancient rhythm, this daily practice of release, this eternal cycle of effort and rest, of doing and being, of giving and receiving. The water holds you like the earth holds the roots of trees, like the sky holds the flight of birds, like the universe holds the dance of stars, with complete acceptance, with infinite patience, with love that asks for nothing in return. The villa around you, these stones that have witnessed thousands of sunsets, thousands of souls seeking peace, thousands of moments just like this one, seems to whisper that you are part of something much larger than your daily concerns, much more enduring than your temporary troubles, much more precious than your harshest inner critic could ever understand. The women you've met here, Livia and Claudia, Aurelia and Valeria and Aquilia, they live in you now, their wisdom woven into your cells, their strength available whenever you need to remember that you too can choose peace. You too can set loving boundaries. You too can live with integrity. You too can tend your inner garden with the devotion it deserves. The light fades gradually, gently, the way all good things should end, with grace and gratitude and the promise of renewal. And you sink deeper into these sacred waters that connect you to every woman who has ever needed to remember her worth, every soul who has ever sought sanctuary, every heart that has ever dared to choose peace over performance, love over approval, authenticity over the exhausting mask of perfection, as the stars begin to appear one by one like ancient blessings scattered across the darkening sky. And you realize that you are held. You have always been held. You will always be held in this vast web of love that asks nothing of you except that you rest, that you receive, that you remember the truth of who you are beneath all the roles and expectations and endless demands, whole and worthy and deserving of every tenderness this world has to offer,